Welcome to the Hallmarkies podcast. Merry Christmas. We're very excited today. We are here to talk about My Sweet Austrian Holiday. And this is part of the Miracles of Christmas season on Hallmark Mysteries. And today I just had to bring my friend Lasse here, and because he is like German, so it's close to Austria.
Yeah, that's true.
But thank you so much for coming on the podcast again.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me on again.
Yeah.
It's an honor, great pleasure. And yeah, I was kind of curious about this one, not gonna lie.
Yeah. Well, so you were on for the Heidelberg holiday last year, and that was really fun and a really cute little movie. And so that was also part of the reason why I thought, oh, this one is European. Let's see what he thinks about it. And for people that didn't hear that episode, why don't you introduce yourself? Tell us a little bit about what you do on your podcast and things.
Yeah, well, sure. I mean, my own podcast, Fans About Films. We have fans talking about films. Go figure. And we are talking also about soundtracks, and have some people from the professional field on, composers and such people. And it's I'm also on Citrus Sound Theater, where we talk about film music, and I'm all over the place when it comes to soundtrack stuff online, but also film stuff, of course. And we go back a few years now
Yeah.
with.
Well, and you also cover Christmas movies, correct?
With It's a 90s Christmas podcast. That one is currently on a long break, but we are planning to come back eventually, so never too late.
Yeah. What to you makes like the perfect holiday film? What do you think's the most important ingredients?
Well, it should have some sort of Christmassy atmosphere in it, meaning
Mm-hmm.
that snow is nice, certainly. It doesn't need snow, of course. I mean, there are places where it just can't snow, but
Yeah.
they still celebrate Christmas there. And should have some themes about maybe like giving and humanity. I mean, I also enjoy Christmas horror films. I mean, at least some of
Uh-huh.
them. So, but when they do something creative that involves the holiday, I'm absolutely there for it. So yeah, it it,
Yeah.
it needs it needs more than just, some songs and other things. It should also maybe take place around Christmas time, at least at some point
Yeah.
in the plot.
I think the key is that you want it to feel cozy. Like even if it's not necessarily snow, you want it to have that like cozy feel. And I think even for the horror stuff, like it's kind of riffing off that cozy feel, right?
Yeah.
Like that, and so that's why it works, is that it's taking this cozy thing and then, twisting it a little bit.
Yeah, totally. I mean, something like Krampus absolutely
Yeah.
does stuff like that,
Yeah.
and that's part of why I enjoy it so much. And I mean, there are other films where they certainly have maybe like a Christmassy feeling because of when they came out and what kind of atmosphere they bring to the table. I mean, on a 90s Christmas podcast, we talked about the first Harry Potter movie, even though that has a very small Christmas section, but there's still kind of, I have Christmas on my mind when I watch it because of the overall like atmosphere, and of course, it's magical and it's about friendship and all of that stuff. So I think it certainly fits the bill.
Yeah.
Ho, ho, ho. We'd like to take a second and thank our sponsor for this episode of the podcast. It's the Hallmarkies Patreon.
Do you love Hallmarkies podcast, especially at Christmas?
Do you enjoy the holiday previews, recaps, interviews, and bonus episodes?
If the answer is yes, please consider supporting the Hallmarkies Patreon. We need your help to do what we do both during the Christmas season and all year round.
But not only do you help a podcast led by strong, independent women by becoming a Patreon, you get to become a part of the Hallmarkies family.
Starting at only $2 a month as a patron, you will have access to our Facebook Patreon group where we talk about the movies, shows, and more all year.
We also have many monthly patron watch-alongs with guests like Lacey Chabert, Natalie Hall, Paul Campbell, Mary Lou Henner, and more, giving their behind-the-scenes details of their films.
As a patron, you also have the chance to provide input into the podcast and even join us at different tiers.
So this Christmas season, spread some cheer to the Hallmarkies Patreon and become a member today. You won't regret it.
Go to patreon.com/Hallmarkies to learn more.
That's patreon.com/Hallmarkies.
Definitely. Well, wow, I can't talk today. Well, My Sweet Austrian Holiday, this aired on Halloween. So it's our Halloween release. And it stars Brittany Bristow and Will Kemp, director Leif Bristow. So that's Brittany's dad. And yeah. And it's Charlotte is an American who has lived in Vienna since inheriting a chocolate shop from her grandparents 2 years ago. Since then, she has worked tirelessly to grow the business into a successful enterprise. Christmas is one of the busiest times of the year, and Charlotte has been selected as one of the finalists for Vienna's Chocolatier of the Year. Taking home the prize could provide some much needed money to fend off a large developer from taking over her grandparents' shop. Charlotte soon meets and befriends Henry, and they bond over their shared affinity for quality chocolate. But a surprising twist of fate just might end their newfound relationship on a bittersweet note. So way to go, the summary writer. That was really good. But overall, what did you think of this one?
It's I guess all right. I mean, I don't have that much experience with Hallmark films. I certainly know what they are about in general, but it's not like, I watched a ton of them. And
Right.
so something like the one we talked about last year, the Heidelberg Holiday, is certainly kind of like my benchmark now. When it comes to Hallmark Christmas films, also ones which kind of like have a relationship with Europe, and
Right.
in a way, the German-speaking realm. So
Right.
against that one, this certainly isn't isn't as good, I thought.
Yeah.
And one problem I have with this, that it in a lot of places it felt very kind of like cold and clinical when it came to the environments and the stuff they hung around in and were talking. It didn't feel very Christmassy. It didn't feel very cold in terms of temperature. And I don't know when they shot this, but I mean, you have some shots of the Christmas market, so I guess they must have filmed it somewhere around that time. I'm not sure.
Yeah, this was disappointing. And I usually don't do episodes of the podcast on movies that I'm not like thrilled with. Usually I combine them with other with other reviews. I usually don't do solo, but since I had already set this up, and so it's a kind of an unusual circumstance. I was hoping that I would enjoy it more. Because I do really like these leads, and I think that that's the strength of it. I think that they're both really charming, and I enjoyed them a lot. I also really like Catherine Disher, who played like her friend, in the store.
Yes.
I really love her.
She was the bright spot.
Yeah, she was really fun. So it had its pluses, but I mean, you can tell from the summary that the story is pretty cookie cutter. But I guess what disappointed me more, because I'm fine with a formula story, of course, but what disappointed me more was just how, like you were saying, as far as the atmosphere and how Vienna was used. And it's not even just that we didn't get a ton of sightseeing around Vienna. But the thing is that everybody like spoke English, like hardly anybody had an accent. Like, it didn't feel like this was even in Europe. Like, this could have easily been in New York City or anywhere else. It could have been just generic city, and so that was disappointing that it didn't kind of take advantage. It could have very easily just been like a made up country, like Genovia, or you know what I mean, something like that, and it would have been exactly the same.
Or something like Toronto. I don't know. It's like it has, but even Toronto as a city has this feeling of, oh yeah, I can grasp the city and whatever. Here it's also blatantly obvious that most of the shots are stock footage, and
Yeah.
I mean it's not unusual with movies of this format and this budget to use stock footage, but sometimes they tend to hide it better. And here it's just establishing shot of like fairly generic looking building, even though some of them are kind of, all these like classy old buildings. And then it's just a very standard coverage of people standing in either like office rooms or a
Yeah.
very bland looking living rooms.
Yeah. Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised. I don't know this is a fact if this was like most of it was shot in Romania or someplace like that. Because it didn't feel it just didn't feel like there was very little escapism as far as this kind of a movie. And I mean, like the Heidelberg one was like way more like immersed in Heidelberg and in the market. And what was also special about that movie is that like they were together for a pretty long time for this kind of story. Like, she was working for, it was like, can't remember if it was 90 days or it was a longer time that she was there and they got to know each other. And so that's nice. And like just his whole family and everybody around them, it felt German.
Yeah, it had that whole cultural aspect to it,
Yeah.
which made it stand out in a way. And here it's just, everybody is from America. I mean, she has both of them are kind of related to Vienna in one way or the other, which they discover about themselves.
Yeah.
But it's still like this could take place anywhere. I think there's only like 2 German words actually spoken, and then it kind of feels like a kind of snide exclamation point at the end of a scene.
And not even accents. They didn't even have people with like vaguely European accents most of the time. They were just like,
I mean, Will Kemp, he's a British actor, but oddly enough, his accent didn't sound all that convincing, and I'm not sure what it was about it. And I had one problem with him, and it's not like I thought his performance was bad or whatever, but he took me off guard at first because he's in the very first scene, and as soon as he showed up, I thought, oh, that's a villain.
Oh, yeah. Well, I mean, because he's working for the developer. So usually in these kind of movies, like the developer is the bad man of business, is the bad guy, and he's like the reformed developer by the end.
And you quickly figure out, like, oh no, he's actually, he's a good guy, but he has something about it, like the certain level of kind of like stiffness about him, and also how he declines to dance in the beginning, where it's just. I don't really know about this guy, and I know him from other stuff. I've seen him, for example, in Van Helsing.
Oh yeah,
he has a part where he plays the brother of Kate Beckinsale character who turns into the werewolf eventually.
Oh, okay.
And so I was certainly familiar with him, and even here because without the beard, he kind of reminded me of a younger Hugh Jackman. He has a little bit of a likeness to him. Yeah. So, but I mean, both of them, they were certainly good together, and I also liked I liked her friend and their interactions. There's not a lot of other characters. He certainly has a friend who is also like a bit of like side stuff going on, but that doesn't really have a payoff. It's just kind of at one point, it's just kind of
like
abandoned.
She's there's like the bad woman of business that's like the true villain.
Yeah, but even then,
it's like trying to get the deal, and I guess his dad is also kind of a villain too.
Yeah, it's very wishy-washy when it comes to that, and also it feels like the villain woman, even though she isn't really the villain, she certainly is kind of like the main antagonist, but it's just because of the circumstances. But with her, it kind of feels like, why are you being so difficult with all of this stuff? This could be, and also, and I'm usually not like this, but I guessed how it was all gonna be resolved very early on, where I was like, I bet this is gonna be. I bet the ending plan kind of like is gonna be this, and then it's exactly what it is. And I was kind of like a little bit proud of myself, but I was also like, well, there weren't many options anyways.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I guess it was a little bit unusual the fact that she is going to end up moving the store, but she's just going to be the flagship of this new whatever.
Mhm.
So like that's a little bit different. But yeah, the whole like save the store kind of plot line, it's been done a billion times and very, very predictable. But this wasn't like a horrible movie. It was
Nah.
like pleasant. I think you could, if you were in the mood for a Christmas movie, with this kind of little romance, it's fine. And I do like these two together. And I think it helps that they had worked together. This is, I think, their third movie together. But this was their
Oh,
first time. She'd always been the supporting. So this is their first time being the co-leads. But still just that friendship. And, you assume if you keep working with each other, they're friends or they have a friendly relationship. And I think you could feel that. I think there was an ease with them and they had a decent chemistry between the two of
yeah. I
them.
mean, they work really good together, and I thought all of their stuff was really charming and cute when I eventually got over kind of like his first impression,
Mm,
which gladly got better
mm,
very,
yeah.
very quickly. And it's and that stuff is certainly the most engaging part about the film. And he has this kind of like performance about him where it's like he knows what kind of stuff he's in, and he plays it
Yeah,
just right.
I'd agree.
But there's a bit of kind of like a self-awareness about him, which I thought worked really well in this
Hmm.
context. And
Yeah,
she's just overall like she's very she's positive, she's caring,
yeah.
and and they yeah, and you want them to kind of like open up to each other, and it starts out pretty well and develops, fairly
Mhm.
quickly, but in a way that feels believable, especially when we are talking about a time like the holidays where it's and kind of like it feels like anything can happen, and
Mhm.
so there's certainly a romanticism in the air, and
Yeah,
yeah, so
yeah.
that's absolutely
Well,
fine.
and it was kind of a nice thing. I knew he was kind of a jerk at the beginning, but the fact that he was like unwilling to dance at the beginning, and then it kind of finishes off with this beautiful dance that they had, which I thought was kind of a nice arc for him as a character, and it was nice too because Will Kemp is a trained dancer.
You could
He
tell.
Yeah, 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 exactly. And so that was nice for him, and the there was some fun with all of the like chocolate tempering and chocolate tasting and what do you think about crushed potato chips and chocolate? Would you do you think it sounds good?
I mean, I would certainly try it, but
Yeah.
it doesn't sound like it would be something of like, some of my favorite or whatever.
Yeah, I don't know
But
if it's gonna win this competition.
no, not
Chocolatier of the
really.
year.
But I've eaten. I think I've eaten stranger chocolate things, and I've seen some stuff that's extremely horrible in that regard.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's kind of like it's kind of a given that how that competition is gonna go. I was kind of
Oh,
disappointed that they didn't show any of it, but it's like,
yeah.
you have so and so much money. There was one scene fairly early on which made me laugh because it's when she's showing him the chocolate store. And we have this shot of like, we have a shot of like the counter and kind of like the two people working there. And he's kind of turning around and said, busy place. And you just see nothing. There's
Yeah, that's
nobody,
true.
and it's clear there's nobody there. And I'm like, but later on, and in other scenes, there are people there, and it's like you couldn't. And they have other scenes with crowds,
Yeah,
and so it's like,
that's true.
so you couldn't do it when it actually mattered in the dialogue. And that was just really strange to me.
Yeah, yeah, that's very, very true. If we'd like to take a second and thank our sponsor for this episode of the podcast, it's the good folks at Harpthrough Press and Lindsay Gibson and her new book, The Christmas Coin. Professional ballet dancer Amelia Collins is blindsided when an accident causes a career-ending injury. With no other options but to start over, she leaves city life behind to remodel a country home in the quaint village of Whitebridge, Connecticut. Running on nothing but hope, she moves in only weeks before Christmas. Then she discovers an old European coin with a story while loading some boxes into her attic. a story that might upend everything, especially when single dad Benjamin Walsh finds out about it and when she learns he's in charge of her remodel. She isn't quite sure how the holiday will go. You can find out more about the Christmas coin and all the great books from Harper's Road at harpersroad.com. You can purchase the Christmas coin wherever you do your holiday book shopping, or you can use the affiliate link below. That's The Christmas Coin by Lindsay Gibson. We know you'll love it. To a chocolate shop, what's usually your go-to? Are you like a caramel person? Like what's the chocolate that you're gonna pick out? Peanut butter, mint.
The thing is, when it comes to chocolate, I'm a very boring person, actually. Like, I'm
Okay.
a very, I'm always going like for the safe bet and stuff I know. Like, usually when it's like, chocolate and marzipan, it's
I love
certainly
that.
something like, yeah, I'm gonna go there. But other than that, it's just like standard milk chocolate is
Ah,
usually my thing. And I'm not very experimental when it comes to that stuff, I'm afraid to say.
yeah. No, I'm the same. And I actually am also team milk chocolate. It's very unsophisticated to say, but I don't
And
dark
whenever
chocolate I can like. It depends, but sometimes it's just a little too bitter for me.
Yeah, it really depends. And also like when it involves fruit, I'm usually curious. Where it's like
Mm.
oh yeah, absolutely. When it's like maybe like kind of like a chocolate praline with some kind of like cherry or
Oh.
raspberry or something, or even like plums, I'm usually, oh yeah, sign me up. That is something I really enjoy. And also when it involves some kind of like cookie dough or something. It's absolutely possible.
I do like the apricots, dried apricots dipped in chocolate.
Oh,
That's really
yeah.
good. Yeah, those are
That
really
sounds
good.
certainly nice. Yeah, it's something, orangey. That's also
Mm.
something I can get behind. Where it's like some type of jelly or even like a moussey stuff. So so it's not like I would when somebody says to me, "Hey, we have I don't know, like we have like a turkey leg dipped in chocolate." I probably wouldn't.
It gets a little
But
creative sometimes. Yeah, I mean chocolate, it's hard to do wrong. It's hard, it's delicious. But if I do love marzipan with covered in chocolate, that's really, really good. I also love toffee, like a good piece of English toffee covered in chocolate. That's a favorite. And and then like a pecan turtle with caramel and pecans, and that's so good, so good. And I'm getting hungry talking about this, but yeah, there was some fun like chocolate tempering scenes and they have already see one of the movies they did together. This was with Lacey Chabert, was Love, Romance, and Chocolates, and that was
mm,
also about a chocolatier and a in a chocolate. He was the chocolatier in that one, and they're in the chocolate competition. And anyway, it's better than this movie. But anyway, Brittany's also in that. And that movie had a lot of sexy chocolate tempering.
oh, nice.
See, it's very
I mean, look,
cozy.
I mean, if you want to see something that's Christmassy and also about chocolate and also singing and dancing in it, I would say Wonka is the better choice because
Oh
that's
yeah,
also a
yeah,
movie
yeah,
that is it's suitable for families. There's nothing too upsetting about in
yeah.
it.
That's true.
So it's
They could
it's
have had
certainly.
more scenes of the two of them making chocolate. Like her maybe teaching him how to do the chocolate, or like just sort of cozy scenes. They could have had more of that.
Yeah, it would be cute. I mean,
Mm.
we have kind of have a scene with it decorating the tree, but it's also very like bare bones tree, and it doesn't look very comforting. Everything just looks so, I don't know, so
Yeah,
fake in a way. And it's also like in terms of how it's shot with like very like shallow focus and not much stuff going on. It feels quite claustrophobic in
yeah.
places.
It's
And
true. It wasn't actually all that Christmassy
nah, I mean
outside of
there's a
the
lot of
market.
like, yeah, there's a lot of like kitschy stuff I noticed in terms of like the trees where like fake presents, even like in the office spaces they go to, they certainly have some sort of
Mm.
decoration there, but it feels very superficial and very clinical as well.
Yeah, it's true. I mean, like they could have had some plot element because pretty much this entire plot could have been done anytime over the year. And so they could add something about her getting like a present or something that's more like intrinsically Christmas about it. But they didn't really have anything like that. But I did like like I said, I liked Catherine Disher in this a lot. She was really fun, and her little relationship with Wilford,
Yes.
that was fun. I liked that,
Yeah,
and
absolutely. Also, like something that was kind of like unexpected in a way,
yeah,
and then something really nice on the side. And
he he
some
he invites her to have a hot toddy.
yeah,
That was fun.
some of that stuff is absolutely fun. And even like when they go ice skating, where it's like the environment itself feels very like small, and
Yeah.
where it's like who would go here? It's just so it feels like they just haphazardly dressed up some sort of room to be, oh, this is the ice skating ring
Yeah.
now. Where it's kind of feels like, community college theater in a way. And I know that's it's a budget thing and they work with what they had. And I know the general audience who's watching this is probably not going to care about that stuff because, the characters are in focus of this whole thing.
Hmm.
And that's what it's all about. And that's all fine. I at least, and I mean, I kind of, you have to adjust your standards when it comes to these things. And maybe I'm still on the level of kind of like searching for something more.
Yeah, yeah. No, I mean it did feel very generic. And it's funny because I say that it didn't have that much Christmas, but they kind of check a lot of boxes actually of these kind of movies. They had your skating scene, they had your decorating the Christmas tree scene, they had the markets and there were a lot of fun moments. And I liked it when they had their little like date and when they can be just together just talking, we get to know like
Mhm.
because they had okay chemistry. That was fun.
Yes.
And I forget if it was her or him says you're afraid of losing someone but you end up losing yourself. So they're both kind of having this midlife crisis moment, which I think anyone can relate to going on. And she had been like a lawyer in Cincinnati, but then when she got the chocolate shop from her grandparents, then she gave it all up in order to run the chocolate shop. But that's why she knows some stuff about like eminent domain and stuff like that.
Yeah, and that's all well explained, and it's good to have some background like that to
Uh-huh.
make the plot work, and that was all fine and good. But
Yeah.
and it's not
I
like the movie's getting bogged down in this whole like legal stuff. I mean,
no.
it's certainly a good dilemma for this kind of plot,
Yeah.
and it's
I
and
liked when she says it's like if the city council agreed with the Grinch and I am the Who's. And then I really liked when Maya, Catherine Disher's character, says, "What is a Who?"
yeah, that
Everyone,
was
that was
quite.
funny.
That was a little funny, and that was kind of like it felt more for like kind of like a generational thing or something,
Uh-huh. Yeah.
and also of course because the Grinch is not nearly as well known in the European realm, certainly in the
Oh, really?
German things. Yeah, I mean it's not it's certainly because of the newer movies people know what it is, but the books and the old like Chuck Jones special that
Mm.
really isn't a thing
Oh,
here.
interesting. Yeah.
Um,
Have you been to Vienna at Christmas? Do you have any familiarity with it?
I don't think at Christmas, but I think I've been to Vienna at least like once or twice. My father sometimes works there in terms of his singing business and all of that.
Uh-huh.
So sometimes he calls from Vienna, and but yeah, I think when it comes to like the city and everything, I actually think something like Captain America: Civil War is a better Vienna movie.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, it didn't really I didn't it there wasn't that escapism as far as like really getting to know the city and its unique traditions and I just feel like Heidelberg Holiday did such a better job of like
Yeah.
making you feel like you knew, okay, what the Heidelberg market is and what the traditions were
He
and the
had so
food.
many beauty shots, buildings, and also, I mean, of course, like her last name, like everything has to do with the city. The city is the movie,
Hmm.
and in this one, yeah, the anonymity of it all is just something that really confused me and really made me, a bit sad.
Yeah, it would have been fun if they had had like more authentic, even like I was surprised that they didn't have something like the Zocker Tort or something like that as part of the I mean, I'm no expert on Vienna, but just something like that as part of the contest that would feel kind of more Austrian.
Yeah, certainly. I mean, it's, the Sachertorte is something that is related to this specific like hotel
Hmm.
and stuff. So, but it is something specific, and this is just so superficial when it comes to that, and that is certainly something that's an opportunity they absolutely missed, and
Yeah.
when it really could have taken place anywhere, and that's yeah,
Yeah.
that's maybe the biggest downgrade of this whole thing.
Yeah. Have you ever heard of these chimney cakes, the Transylvanian chimney cakes
I
that they
don't.
have?
Maybe. Maybe I've seen something like that. Yeah, could be.
I looked it up. So they're tubular treats. Eastern European region of Transylvania is perhaps known for its contributions to the pastry world. Many associate Romanian region more for Bram Stoker's fictional landscape than with baked goods, but they took it Hungarian for chimney cakes, hollow helix-shaped pastries made from a simple yeast dough that's wrapped around a wooden cylinder, dusted with sugar, and then baked on a rotating spit above an open flame.
Yeah, I've actually had these. They're called Baumstritze in German. They're very big hit on Renaissance fairs over here, for
Oh,
example.
okay.
But you certainly can also find them at Christmas markets. Yeah, I was never a big fan of them because of all the sugar on top. But there are different versions of them you can get. But it's quite a lot of stuff you get. Like it's huge chunk. It's kind of like you get a whole like wooden log basically to chew on, and that's just too much, especially when you're in this
Oh,
market
yeah.
environment where you're moving around. So it's not my go-to food when it comes to markets.
Yeah, I mean, it looks like it's almost a little bit almost like a pretzel, kind of.
A little
Is
bit,
what,
yeah. It's
yeah.
it can there different recipes, different things, and also of course like different shapes and sizes. But I especially know them as these like kind of like this size,
Oh, pretty big.
Yeah, and if not bigger even. So,
Mm,
I guess you can also get them smaller, of course, but yeah, not really all that much when it comes to. I
yeah.
mean, they got it right that yeah, there's like famous Vienna chocolate and all of that, and of course there's the historic building angle, but that also
Yeah.
could be any other city, even in America or Canada or
Yeah.
somewhere else.
Yeah, I mean, and it could be that's another reason why I thought, oh, is this did they shoot this in Romania? Because I know a lot of these films are shot in Romania and or Hungary, Budapest, people like places like that. And uh it's like they have this Romanian treat, kind of thing. But
We'd like to take a second and thank our sponsor for this episode of the podcast. It's the Hallmarkies merch store.
Are you looking for that perfect gift for the postable, Hardy, or Hallmarky in your life?
What about getting that t-shirt or hoodie that will help you stand out at your next holiday party?
Now is the time to check out the Hallmarkies merch store.
Full of festive designs by artists like Jessica Miller, Carrie from Hallmark Comics, and more.
You can even have more than just shirts, but totes, cell phone cases, notebooks, mugs, and more.
And it isn't just Hallmark. We have designs for Anna Green Gables, Man from Snowy River, The Nanny, and more.
Every purchase at the merch store goes to help support the podcast and allows us to make the great content you know and love.
There are frequent sales, so go to tpublic.com/stores/hallmarkies or see the link in the description.
That's tpublic.com/stores/Hallmarkies.
I'm sure it was delicious. And they do have they have them go on a carriage ride. They have, like I said, they have them decorating a tree. Santa is there in a scene. So there were some, touch points, I guess, and that they have as far as Christmas. But yeah, they could have. I was surprised that the final entry in the contest, which they barely show, the contest is not really a thing, hardly at all. Like they don't really show her competing or.
No, it's something that's always mentioned.
Yeah,
and kind of to give a friend kind of something to do and to comment on. But it's not really part of the plot. It's a side story that just gets mentioned but not really shown.
Because she could have made a chocolate chimney cake or something as the big win for the contest.
Or maybe they could have incorporated the contest in a way that maybe the prize could have something to do with the building and this whole plot.
Yeah, if she needed
some way.
Yeah, if she needed a certain deposit or something like that in order to save the store, and then she comes through with the chimney cake, chocolate chimney cakes, and wins and gets that prize money, and so Christmas is saved or whatever.
Yeah, I mean, when it's about she falls in love with the guy who actually owns the company now, that would be kind of redundant. Where it's she already is kind of at the source when it comes to that stuff and the problem solving. And he does his best from very early on to help her solve the problem without her really knowing the whole context. And that's where, some of the conflict comes from, of course, too. But in that regard, you don't really need the chocolate contest where it's why is this even here?
Yeah. Well, and so she ends up going to this friend of her grandmother's, and they have a picture of it. That would be her great grandparents, right? In front of the store. Because it was 1921. So it would have to be, it would have to be not her grandparents. It would have to be the one before. But anyway, and she gets this picture. And so that's sort of her key to being this is a historical site or whatever. So
yeah, but then they don't show the process anymore. It's just always something that gets talked about.
Yeah.
In very, very passively, and not it's not like we have this scene where she actually presents this to some kind of lawyer or judge or whatever, or to the people. It's just something, with this one you surely have proof, and then that's kind of it.
I did after she gets the picture and she's talking to Maya, and Maya says, Henry's madly in love with you and willing to risk it all. And then she goes and she finds him at the skating rink. And that was kind of a cute moment because he's just so sad. She's I knew you would be here and everything. And it was cute.
That was really nice. And also puts him into a position of vulnerability because he can't ice skate. And so it also says a little bit about himself and the kind of the risks he's willing to take, and also kind of putting himself down a little bit to say, hey, I'm just this guy.
Yeah, he says, I'll do anything to apologize. Just cute. It was cute.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Their stuff together is really cute. It certainly is the heart of this whole thing. It's just everything around it that kind of feels very, superficial and lackluster.
Yeah, I agree. So his dad shows up and because he said, I won't give you my blessing on this plan of yours. But then his dad shows up and he's like, I'm proud of you. And this is, it's business. We'll figure it out, which is absolutely correct.
Yeah,
it's true.
Yeah, it's but the whole stuff is fine. Not a big conflict there, but it's certainly something that they accomplish a lot with just a few lines of dialogue, which is absolutely fine.
Yeah, and so then we end with the announcement about the store, and then them dancing, which I enjoyed that. That was fun.
Yeah, but, and also the finals thing with the Christmas tree and all of that. Yeah, it absolutely works well.
Yeah. Well, since I knew this would I knew that we both didn't love this movie, and I always like to kind of end on a more positive note. Well, actually, before we do that, so if you were saying 1 to 5, what would you give this movie? What would you, how would you?
Oh boy, I don't know, maybe a 2. And it
Yeah,
sounds much more negative than I mean it, but like 2.5 would be kind of like sound like an encouragement to watch it. And there's not really much I can like, oh, go out
yeah.
of your way to watch this, It's so I would say a very negative sounding, but overall just a middling 2.
Yeah, I agree. I would give it a 2.5. And it's watchable. It's pleasant enough. I like the stars, but just the script just wasn't there. And I was just disappointed that they didn't use Austria more and that it wasn't more of a character in the story. So
Yeah.
that was disappointing. But anyway, we like to kind of leave these on a more like positive feel. Like I said, I usually don't do whole episodes on just one movie that I'm not crazy about. So I thought it'd be fun at just the end to sort of talk about a couple of our favorite Christmas movies. And so I'm curious for you, like what would you say is maybe your like top 2, 3?
I mean, in my top 3 certainly is The Muppet Christmas Carol. Just
Mm,
one of the most perfect Christmas films, and maybe the best adaptation of the story overall.
yeah,
So that's certainly
I
very, very
love
high
that
up
one so
up
much.
there. Another one is actually a German film. It's called Drei Männer im Schnee or Three Men in the Snow.
Oh,
It's a very old one. Might be from the 50s or 40s, I'm not quite sure. But it's not really about Christmas, but it's very Christmassy because it takes place in the mountains, and at the end kind of like has a festive feeling about it. But it's a Christmas film for me because we watch it every day we decorate the tree right on the day before
oh.
Christmas. So that's a family tradition. And it's yeah,
What's
it's
it called
certain.
again?
It's called Drei Männer im Schnee or Three Men in the Snow. I don't know if it really has like a
Huh.
um, English like official translation because I don't
Oh,
think
cool.
it has actually ever gotten a wide release anywhere else, and I don't think there's a remake or anything. So
Mm-hmm.
it would certainly be yeah, it's certainly universal enough that it would work in an American environment as well. So somebody actually could do a remake of it, and it would still make sense, I
Huh.
think.
Cool. That's good. Yeah. It's always so hard because of course you like things for different reasons. I mean, Home Alone is incredibly nostalgic for me. It was the first comedy that I ever really loved, and I saw it when I was 9, almost 10, and with my grandparents. I was we always did a 10-year-old trip with the grandparents, and so I saw Home Alone, and I just remember just dying laughing, just thinking it was the funniest. And as an adult, like it's surprisingly sweet and tender. I mean, of course, we know about all the hijinks and everything like that, but the booby traps. But really, for most of the movie, it's quite sweet.
Yeah, it's have you ever seen the because when you're an adult it kind of takes a different meaning in terms of a slapstick.
Yeah.
Have you ever seen this video of like a professional doctor watching all the like booby
Oh,
trap
I'm
stuff?
sure. Yeah.
It's just him like going shattered cranium again, brain trauma, it's
Yeah. Yeah.
oh
Yeah.
God.
And they would be in jail.
Yes,
But
absolutely.
I do love Home Alone, and of course, It's a Wonderful Life is a classic for a reason. It's wonderful. It's one of the finest, I just think, films in general ever made. I think it's really
Yeah.
good.
I mean it's
Uh,
one of the most famous ones,
yeah,
absolutely.
certainly. Yeah. I love Miracle on 34th Street. I love Charlie Brown's Christmas. Is that a thing?
Which
Did you watch that? Was Are Peanuts, are they as popular
Peanut
out
certainly is
there?
a thing over here, but I don't
Yeah.
think I've ever seen a Christmas special. I've seen both Miracle on
Mm,
34th Streets, though.
yeah.
Also, they're easily accessible now because of Disney Plus. So
Right.
that's certainly. And we want on 90th Christmas podcast, we want to talk about the remake of A Miracle on 34th Street eventually.
Yeah, it's not bad.
Be-
It's I don't think that I forget what they came up with as far as it's something different than having the letters at the end,
Yes.
and it wasn't as good. I can't remember what it is, but it was solid. And that's one interesting thing is that in general, rom-coms remake really well. And I don't know, just because they have such a formula to them, and so they can tolerate kind of remakes quite well. Of course, you
Yeah,
got like
because
Father of the Bride that has been remade a bunch of times. Parent Trap, remade successfully. Of course, you've got Shop Around the Corner, and you've got Mail, and that story's been done so many times effectively. And it's kind of interesting because I feel like compared to other genres like the romantic comedy, it does quite well, I think.
yeah, because from a certain point on, love stories became very timeless as a concept,
Yeah.
is the thing, especially like romantic comedy. I mean, it's not like in the Middle Ages where it's here, my pig is bigger than yours. All right, I'm in love with you now, let's get married. I mean, that was the whole thing back then. But
Right.
nowadays, from a certain point on, it got to a formula which universally works and also
Yeah.
timelessly works. So it's no
Yeah.
wonder that, yeah, they absolutely can tolerate remakes.
Mhm.
And funny thing about The Parent Trap, because that's based on a German book and it's from the author who wrote The Three Men in the Snow. So
Oh, really?
to tie it in a nice Christmas bow.
Nice. Very good. Well, thanks for coming on and talking with us about this. I really appreciate it. It was a lot of fun. And let us know what you think of the movie. How did you feel about it? Like I said, I think the biggest strength of it is its 2 stars, and yeah, also Catherine Disher. I think that is the reason to watch it if you're going to watch it. But we want to hear what the listeners think about the movie, and how can people follow you on social media, all that fun stuff.
Well, you can find me anywhere where good and better podcasts can be found. My podcast is on Spotify, Fans About Films, iTunes, SoundCloud, anywhere. I'm also on YouTube sometimes. I'm Lasse Vogt at Lasse Vogt on Facebook and Twitter. My other show is called It's a 90s Christmas Podcast, where we have many episodes available for you. Just no current ones, but we will be back eventually. And I'm with citrosoundtheater.com. So
Right.
all that stuff you can check out.
And you can find me at Rachel's Reviews, all over social media, iTunes, YouTube, and on Rotten Tomatoes. Check that out. Also, make sure you're following the podcast at Hallmarkies Pod, Hallmarkies Podcast, all over social media. And if you're listening on iTunes, please leave your ratings and reviews. We sure appreciate that. And if you're watching YouTube, please give the video a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel. Most of our viewers are not subscribers. So if you're in that camp, please subscribe. It really helps the algorithm a lot. And we have our Patreon group, which you can be part of watch alongs. And we've had Brittany and Will Kemp, both of them, on watch alongs. So it's a pretty fun experience, in any level patron can participate. So definitely please check that out. And we have our merch store. We have some new holiday movie inspired designs. We've got Die Hard. We've got Christmas Story. We've got The Grinch. So a lot of fun ones over there. So check it out. And thanks so much. We'll talk to y'all later. Bye.
Bye!